Hi there, welcome back to my channel, Scrap and Coffee. I'm going to continue with the Welcome Baby Girl mini album that I'm making. I've done all my pages and now I'm going to construct the cover. It's going to be a basic cover, so you're going to need your 2 pieces of chipboard for your front and back cover and 1 piece for your spine. And the large pieces are 6 3/4 by 8 inch and this one is 6 3/4 by 2 inch. So you can find that in the cutting guide that you can download on my website. And I've got my pieces of cardstock to size, where I have an inch on top and bottom of my cover piece. So these are cut to 8 3/4 by 12, and I'm going to combine them to make one long piece so I can wrap this chipboard for the cover. So what I'll probably do is kind of speed up the video, fast forward, because I have a lot of videos on how I make a cover. And yeah, if you want to have a detailed video, I will put a link on top to a video that you can watch for a more detailed step-by-step instruction. Yeah, but I didn't want to bore you half an hour with wrapping a chipboard cover if you know how to do that, right? So I'll probably speed up the video a little bit. So first up, I'm going to place some 3/8 inch tape along the shorter side of this white cardstock of 1 piece, so I can combine the 2 pieces. And you really don't have to stress about this too much, because if you're off a little bit, that's not a bad thing. It's okay, don't worry. So I just dropped it on there and give that a burnish. Now I do want to say before I'm not going to be, it's not, if I want to have an inch on my side as well, right? So if I'm going to start here and then place my spine with a little bit of space, you see my overlapping is going to be on a really bad place. So I've decided that I'm going to place the spine on that overlapping, and then yeah, my 2 other pieces next to it. I think that's my best way to go in this case. So I'm going to draw a line an inch from the bottom. That's going to be my guideline to place those pieces on here. That's what I like to do. So again, sorry, the overlapping here, the end of my cardstock is here, right? And but on the other side, the end is 1/2 inch that way. So I'm trying to see that both of those ends are not too close to the edge of my chipboard. If you were wondering what am I looking at, well, that's it. So I'm going to do it a little bit offset, so they both have 3/4 inch towards the edge of my chipboard spine. And I hope that's going to work. I'm going to mark an inch from the edge, so I know where I can cut down my paper, because I don't need this much. So next up, I'm getting my miter tool. And some tape, 3/8 inch tape for the perimeter of the cardstock. And I prefer to use 1/4 inch tape around the perimeter of the chipboard. But if you don't have that, no problem, right? You can use whatever you have. shortcut on those lines. So I've kind of scored that edge. I want to do anything to prevent cracking of the cardstock. And now I'm going to pre-fold this. And then I'm going to start on the longer sides. And I like to combine that with some wet glue. So I place that along the edge of the chipboard. So I'm just going over with my bone folder, break down the fibers, and then I'm going to stick it on the spine first and work my way out. And that way I can rub out all the air that's underneath there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other long sides. So on the shorter side here, we have a little bit of overhang of that cardstock in that corner. I'm going to fold that in. And then we have a nice covered corner. And I don't know what it is, if it's this white cardstock, but it's fighting me. I'm struggling a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this burnished in the gusset area here. So I'm putting my hand under my cover and I'm going to push the cardstock against the chipboard. Don't push straight down, because then your cardstock might rip. Do this on the bottom and on the top of your cover. And then I'm going to, when I've done both, I'm going to lift it up and try to push it in there. Okay, I think that turned out pretty good. So the chipboard is wrapped. You see how my overlapping is almost centered on the spine. So I think that worked out pretty good. And next up we're going to make the binding for the inside and the back and front inside covers. Okay, next up I'm going to make the binding system. I'm going to apologize for it because my little baby girl is in the room with me. She's playing, so we might hear her here and there, and I also might have to get up to comfort her a little bit. But I've got a piece that is 6 1/4 by 12 inches and I've put the 12-inch on top, and we are going to score, and I'm just going to start at the 2-inch mark. Then I'm going to score at 2 3/4, at 3 1/2, that's our first page. Then a 1/2 inch gusset, 4 inches, 4 3/4, 5 1/2, second page, 6 inches, and then 6 3/4, 7 1/2, 8 inches, 8 3/4, and then 9 1/2. So that is the basic scoring of for the hinge, but for the binding system, sorry. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to make some marks. I normally do that with my pencil, but I figured I can also just do that in my scoreboard. So bear with me, please. I am going to make a little mark. So I started here at the 2 inches, and then we have a 3/4 inch space and another 3/4 inch space. That's going to form the hinge for our first page. And I only want to have my page on there 1/2 inch. So I'm going to leave a 1/4 inch space. So I'm going to make a little mark with my scoreboard at a 2 1/4 inch. And it's going to be really hard to see, but I'm going to mark that. And then here on the second 3/4 inch, I'm going to mark a little on the 3 1/4 inch. And I'm going to do that for every page. So I'm going to skip that 1/2 inch gusset. Then I'm going to the 4 1/4, to the 5 1/4. Here I'm going to do it at the 6 1/4, and at the 7 1/4, at the 8 1/4, at the 9 1/4. So that's actually pretty easy. And then I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing on the other side, and then I know where I can taper my hinge later on. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to the bumpy side because here we want to apply some tape. So what it is, the first 3/4 inch I'm going to mark as a 1, and then the second one is going to be a 2, and then we have that 1/2 inch that's going to be a gusset. And I'm going to repeat that: 1, 2, gusset, 1, 2, gusset, 1, 2. So the numbers 1 and 2 are going to form your actual hinge. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to fill up all the numbers 1 with tape. Just make sure you stay in between your score lines. So I've used a combination of 3/8 inch tape and a 1/4 inch tape to fill in that number 1. And then we are going to start folding. So I'm going to fold on the score line between my number 1 and my number 2 here. I'm just folding it, give that a burnish, then I'm opening it back up, remove my tape backing and stick that together. There we go. Now I have a score line here. I'm going to pull back on this flap here and burnish that as well. And then you have your flap and then your gusset. And I'm going to repeat that again. I'm going to fold on the score line between the number 1 and the number 2. Remove your tape backing. Stick that onto each other. And now we see 2 score lines here, and I'm going to fold on the first one from the folded edge that I've just created. I'm going to pull back on that one. And then you have your larger piece, gusset, gusset. And I'm going to repeat this process for the other 2 hinges as well. Okay, so this is what we end up with. Then I'm turning it over, and then you see your score lines here, and we're just going to pull back on those and give that a good burnish. And then again I have a score line here that is not folded yet. So you do that for all 4 of your hinges. And you really want to give all of this a good burnish. Okay, then I'm going to get my 3/8 inch tape, that's what I prefer to use, and I'm going to apply that on all my hinges. And I'm going to stay close to the folded edge without going over. And once I've got all the tape on there again, I'm just giving that a really good burnish. So I'm picking it up on one of the hinges and I'm going to try to show you. It's going to be pretty hard, I guess. My tape is going up to here, and here I have that little score mark that I've made in my scoreboard earlier. That is where I'm going to start my taper. So I'm putting my scissors at that mark and cut at that angle. Okay, so I've done that for all those hinges. I've tapered that, and then I also went ahead and I've backed the whole back side of this with double-sided tape. And I think you can also do this with wet glue. I always prefer to do it with some double-sided tape, but what you especially want to do is give this a really good coverage. Don't hold back uncovering this, because otherwise you're going to get air bubbles or your hinge over time is going to come off, and you don't want that, right? So give it a good coverage, and the critical areas are the middle part where your hinges are and the ends, the sides. So I did that, and now we can place this in our cover. So I'm getting that back in, and this is going to be my back, and now I need to decide where I want that, of course. So what I did is we have 1/2 inch between our pages, and I'm going to give myself 1/4 inch to the chipboard edge from my first and last spine, and I'm going to center it from top and bottom, of course. So I think I am going for here. So I'm going to mark, let's do this side first. You can mark where your hinges need to be, something like that, right? I am going to use a T-ruler here, but I'm going to do that on the other side because I don't really trust that edge there. And that's my doing. Okay, so if I'm going to follow that line and center it from top to bottom, what am I going to get? Okay, that's nice. Okay, so I'm going to remove my tape backing on this edge here, if it wants to come off. And on the middle part, and I'm going to leave the rest of it for now. And I'm going to combine it with a little bit of wet glue, and that's more for some wiggle time than extra strength or something, but it's just, yeah, I'll show you. Okay, so I am going to have my eye on that line, centered from top to bottom. Try to get it straight. Something like this. And now I am going to push down on the center part here between my pages. And also here, but only on the spine. Get another bone folder because the other one is not going to fit in between the... I'm going to turn it around for a second. The other one is not fitting in between the gusset. Now I'm going to push this in that gusset area, the cardstock. Try to get my hinges to the other side so they're not in my way. Slowly lifting up my cover while I am burnishing that in there. And now this is already sticking a little bit, but I can still lift it up, see? So now I'm going to burnish it on here. Make sure that's a good stick. Okay, now I can repeat that process on this side. So I still have to remove my tape backings. There we go. So again, I'm turning it around and first push it in that gusset area. Then I'm going to burnish this side here, and I'm working my way from my spine outwards. There we go. Let's do that. Too late, I think. Okay. So our hinges are in there, nice. I am going to cut me some pieces to cover up the front and back cover. I like to do that, it's optional. And what am I going to do? I'm going for 1/8 inch border. So it's going to be a little bit more with the wrapping. I am going for 6.5 inches by 7 3/4. Yes, 2 pieces. So these pieces I'm going to put some double-sided tape around the perimeter, and I'm going to fill in that middle part a little bit. Okay, so now I have the tape on there. I'm going to give that a quick burnish so I can remove my tape backing a little bit easier. And then we can place that on that front and back cover. So I do like to combine that with some wet glue. So with the wet glue I like to fill in the open spaces, but also give myself some wiggle time. So when the double-sided tape hits the cardstock, I can still lift it up if I want to. Okay, so I've covered the front and inside cover with the cardstock. And now I'm going to make the features for the back and inside cover. And I'm going to do the same thing on both sides, but it's going to be mirrored. This video is taking me all day already. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get this done. Okay, so I've got 2 pieces of cardstock. One is going to be for the front and one is going to be for the back. And they measured 8 by 5 inches. And with the one, I'm going to put with the 8-inch side on top. And I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. I'm going to turn it clockwise and score again at 1/2 inch. So your score lines with the dented side facing you is an L shape. For the other one, I'm going to put the 8-inch side on top. I'm going to score at 7.5 inches. Turn it clockwise and score at 1/2 inch. And in that way, it's with the dented side facing me, it's a reversed L shape. So that's going to mirror each other. Then I also have 2 pieces of cardstock that measure 7.5 inches by 4 inches. And there I did the same thing. So one I've put with the 7.5 on top, scored at the 7-inch side, turn it clockwise, scored at the 1/2 inch mark. And for the other one I've scored at the 1/2 inch mark, turned it clockwise and scored again at the 1/2 inch mark. So again, these are mirrored from each other, and you want to make a set. With the large one, I have my score lines here and on the bottom, and then the small one, I want to have the score line here and on the bottom. And the other two go together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put tape on these pieces, on the dented side. Okay, so I'm going to give all the tape a burnish. It's just easier to remove the tape backing, but it also makes for a better stick. And then I'm going to miter the corner where those score lines are meeting on all 4 pieces. Okay, then I'm going to start with the larger piece. I'm going to fold and burnish those score lines. I'm going to make an angle in this pocket. And you know, there is no science to it for me personally. It's just what looks good to you when you make an angle. What looks visually good to you. And I was thinking I have my flaps folded in, and I'm going to measure 1 3/4 from that folded edge there. And then I'm just going to I think I like this angle. Kind of marking that a little bit there. And then I measure, what did I do? Let's make that 2 1/4 from the folded edge. And I'm going to line that up in my cutting board, but I'm going to do the same thing with the other pocket. So let's do that right away. I did 1 3/4 from the folded edge on top and 2 1/4 from the folded edge on the bottom. Okay, so those are prepared. And then we have the other ones. So again, I'm going to fold and burnish those score lines. Yes, so let's see what it is that I want to do with these ones, right? So again, I'm just going to do what visually looks good to me. So I'm thinking 1.5 here from the folded edge on top. And then something like this. I'm going to do 1.5 as well. So I was actually at 1 3/8, but let's do 1.5. And I will do the same thing on this one. So and cut that as well. Okay, now what I'm thinking is making a window in this pocket. So for that I'm going to draw a frame. Okay, so I'm going to draw a frame. I'm going to turn it over to the bumpy side. I'm opening this back up and I'm going for a 1/2 inch frame. So on the sides where I have a score line, I'm going to draw a line 1 inch from the cut edge. And I'm just going to do one, which the other one I will do in my own time, but it's just so you know what I'm doing. So, and then on the sides where I don't have a score line, I'm going 1/2 inch from the cut edge. So also here on that angles part. And right here. So then I like to pinch where my pencil lines are meeting. I just make a little, with my paper piercer, make a little hole for a clean corner. And then I'm going to cut on the pencil lines. Okay, so this is out, and now I am going to determine the measurement for my acetate. 3 1/4 by 6 5/8 of an inch. Okay, let's see how that is going to fit on there. That should be fine, but you never know. Okay, that fits. So I'm going to place it on here where I want to have it. And then I'm going to mark on my acetate where I can cut my angle. And cut that, of course. So it's a lot of getting my paper trimmer in and out, and it's quite heavy. It's a good workout. It's the only workout that I get, actually. So. Okay, so this is how it's going on that piece. So I want to have my tape on the other side. So I'm going to flip it, and that's where I'm going to put my tape. And see that I'm almost out of this tape. Okay, so I've put tape on the cardstock and on the acetate. That's what I prefer to do. You can also do just on one side only. Whatever you prefer, right? So let's remove that tape backing. Okay, so the tape is removed, and now carefully I'm going to place that on there. And that was not carefully, but I think I'm good. I think I'm good. See that there's no tape overhang? Yep. It fell out of my hand. I just dropped it on there, so that was not carefully. But I just stayed above my score line there. That's important, right? Because otherwise you're not able to fold this in the way you want to. And then we have that frame. Okay, so let's go to my front inside cover. This is going to be my back, so I'm going to work on this side. And then I need this pocket with the folded flap on my right hand side. That one is going here on the inside. And this one is going on top right there. And I'm going to do it in this order because then this side is open. And if I have a photo mat in there and it falls, it will fall up to the hinge and not out of the book, right? So that is what we are going to do. However, I am first going to attach the flap of my top pocket. And it's kind of weird what I'm going to do, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I always have something weird, or well, maybe if you follow me a little longer, you know me by now. So I'm aligning that in that corner there where I want it. And bring that along that edge there. So I didn't place the bottom, right? That's still there. And I'm going to leave it like this for now. Now I'm going to attach this pocket. And it's going over that 1/2 inch there a little bit. So you could also place this one first and then shove the other one behind it. But I thought maybe this is easier. I wanted to try it out. So I'm sorry that you have to bear through that. I'm going to fold that one down. And now I'm going to align this one right there. Along that bottom edge of that piece of cardstock that I already placed there. That's a really nice guideline for me. That's the main reason that I do it actually. And for some people that's a big waste of cardstock. I totally get that. You don't have to place that piece of cardstock if you don't want to, of course. Oh, and I also forgot, I almost forgot. Really important, I need to cut my pattern paper for this pocket, because once I've glued this down, it's going to be really hard to make that angle in that pattern paper. So let's do that first. I think this is going to be my first page. And I always like cohesiveness, so this is going to be the piece that's going on my back cover there. And then I have some scrap pieces that will go on the frame of my top pocket. And then I think I like the yellow combined with that. So I'm going to cut a piece that is, I think, 7 1/4. Yeah, so I'm going for that 1/8 inch border, right? So this is 7 1/2, and I'm cutting it 1/4 inch smaller, 7 1/4 by 4 1/4. 7 1/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, so I've cut that to size, and now I'm aligning it here on my piece where I have that nice 1/8 inch border. And then I'm going to mark on my pattern paper where that angle is starting, and then I'm going to cut that. So again, getting that paper trimmer in and cut. Okay, I think I did quite a good job there. So I don't have to stick this down yet, but I do want to have it cut because getting the angle in there is really difficult once this is stuck down. So now I am going to remove that tape backing here. And hold everything down carefully. This is a little bit tricky now. Bring that along the bottom of that pocket here. There we go. So now I can glue this piece down, and then I hide the construction of that pocket there as well. Yes, and then this will go here. This is too big, of course. I'll need to cut it down, and then I have this one to go here. I think I like that. Okay, so on the back cover, you are going to do the same thing with your mirrored pieces, but you're just going to stick them down mirrored, right? So again, the large one will go here, and then the smaller one will go on top, and I still have to make that window there. So that is what we are going to do for the back inside cover. It's the same thing. For attaching the pages on the hinge, for page 1, here is my pocket. Binding pocket behind the window, and we are going to shove that over that hinge, and we've tapered that, so you're going to stop where you start your taper, and then you have that 1/4 inch between your spine and the start of your page, and that will make for a flatter page. And these pages are not really elaborated, so you don't need a lot of room there. So you're going to do that for all your pages. For page number 2, let me see where I have my pages. For page number 2, your binding pocket is behind the belly band, right? So this is the front of the page, the back of the page, and then there is your binding pocket. And you're going to slip that one over your hinge. Just like that. And you're going to remove your tape, of course. So that is what I'm going to continue with. I'm going to decorate the covers. I'm going to make my photo mats that still need to go in there. And then the album is done, and I will, yeah, I've already showed you the walkthrough. I still have this idea for photo mat in my mind, and I think it will work out. So I will probably do a separate quick tutorial for those photo mats. Yeah, so this is it constructions wise actually. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day, and see you in the next video. Bye!